All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Define's webinar with Fayette County about high quality instruction using Define Learning. We're excited to have you here today as we are talking, as we're getting ready. It's a beautiful, warm, late spring day. So thank you all for taking the time to join us. My name is David Reese. I'm the Chief Academic Officer for Define Learning. And Nikki Bilder is here, my colleague and driver of this webinar. So we're excited to talk with you today and tell you a little bit about what we're going to do and then turn it over to the leaders from Fayette County. So what we'll do is we have a presentation that we're excited to share with you. And following the presentation, Nikki is going to lead a very brief demo of Define Learning so you can see it. We will also end with questions and answers. So what we would ask you is if during the presentation you have any questions or thoughts you want to share, if you could please do that in the chat, and then at the end of the presentation, we will come back and go from there. And so with that said, what I'd like to do is introduce Marchelle Bowling. She's the principal of Anstead Elementary School. She's an instructional leader who supports teachers in creating and implementing engaging, student-centered learning experiences. She works collaboratively with staff to strengthen instructional practices through meaningful, hands-on learning opportunities that support student growth and achievement. As her school begins expanding instruction to include project-based learning practices, she remains focused on fostering authentic learning experiences that connect classroom instruction to real-world application. And her teammate is Eleanor Gandee, who is an educational specialist for Fayette County Schools. She works with Valley PK 8 School and Anstead Elementary School, supporting teachers in creating meaningful and engaging learning experiences through effective instructional practices, which includes project and problem-based learning. She collaborates with educators to connect research-based instruction with authentic learning opportunities for students. What I love about your introductions is you hit some really important words that we're going to be learning a lot about through the presentation. And so with that said, I would love to turn it over to Marchelle and Eleanor. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Eleanor Gandee, so I'll be doing a lot of the talking today because I am part of the PD, which is what we're going to mostly talk about today. But Miss Bowling, I would like to just jump over to her really quickly because without her vision and her leadership with this and giving us the opportunity to really dive into this thing and drive us forward with it, we wouldn't be here today. So I'm going to pass it to her to kind of talk about why we're here and why we're even using Defined.
Good morning, everyone. I am in my field day year and I'm excited for this year. Just like everything that we do in education, we're always a revolving door, trying to find new tools to add to ensure that great success for our students and for our county and our state. We received this um, guide and tool about in November. And, when you start in the middle of the year or close to the start of the year, you're like, there's something else added to my plate. How am I going to use it? And as Miss Gandee goes through this process in the slides, she'll be talking more about how we're learning it and how we're starting to use it and use it effectively because tools just don't happen overnight. You can't just say, here it is, and you take off running. It's a process. And this year we did a process and we built activities for our teachers to do that we can make sustainable throughout the school year and the years to come. So at our school, my school currently, Anstead Elementary, we've not completely gone through the whole, but we've done the trainings and we got it to start the rolling so we can make it sustainable because we have to make things sustainable for it to work. And we're so excited with Divine Learning to put those applications in to work for our PBL. Which our county's been doing for the past several years. So I'll let Miss Gandee go on and I'll chime in whenever she needs me to.
All right, so I've been working in Fayette County as a teacher and an education specialist for the last 10 years, and PBL is nothing new to us. We've been implementing PBL, we've been talking about it since I've come to the county, and we've made progress. We've seen some instructional shifts, some teachers trying some authentic learning experiences, some students getting more engaged and really diving deeper into their learning. But then, of course, as the world knows, COVID hit, everything stopped, halted, and we had to pivot what we were doing. So we had all these instructional learning gaps that we had to then clean up really quickly in these innovative ways, while also trying to do all of the other things. So underneath all of that, we were trying to do all of these things, but there's still so much frustration as a teacher, as a leader, when we're trying to do it all for everybody. So the question became, how do we balance it all? So maybe we were asking those wrong questions. Maybe it wasn't that we needed to balance it all, because right now we've been trying to do it all in separate silos. So literacy here, intervention here, behavior support here, engagement here, PBL here, and hopefully it can clean it all up. But the teachers were trying to do it all on their own with minimal support, trying to just power through. So it wasn't that they needed to be doing it all or that they needed to be doing the next new thing that's going to do it all for them. It's just that we had to provide those learning experiences connected together. So we had to understand what true high quality instruction actually looked like. So when we bring curriculum, intervention supports, literacy practices, technology, collaboration, authentic learning experiences, they stop competing and they start working together. So we really started looking at program strategies and tools were never supposed to be about the learning. They were supposed to support the learning. So Ready Math is a tool. Define learning is a tool. Read alouds are a tool. Discussions are a tool. Assessments are a tool. So instead of us just talking about this tool that we're using, we're talking about how do we use these tools to support the learning itself. So today we're talking about the one of the greatest tools that we have added to our toolbox, as Ms. Bowling mentioned, and that's Define Learning. So Define Learning became the tool that connected it all for us. So as Ms. Bowling mentioned, it was sustainability. As we have gone in and talked about PBL for the last 10 years, we've had bits and pieces just sprinkled in with a training here, a PD here. We've been working with different people. And then we've also been trained on intervention styles, behavior supports, and things like that. But then we are still expected to have those high quality, authentic learning experiences. So how do we do that? How do I have time to plan for that? How do I have time to dive deeper into that? So it became another piece. I just don't have time to do PBL. So we trained our teachers, and then we learned I can actually do this. So the other problem that we leaders ran into, me as a specialist for Fayette County Schools and Miss Bowling as a principal of Ansted Elementary, we ran into how do we train our teachers? Because we can't hand them a tool and expect them to magically start implementing things to fidelity or effectively. So having the access to those strong instructional things, it doesn't automatically mean implementation. So we have to ensure that we're giving them high quality training and support while they're implementing these new pieces. So it wasn't that here we are, we're in November, we have this new tool, please go use it and cause great learning to happen. We had to strategically plan some things to make that learning happen. And Ms. Bowling kind of started to touch in on that. So in November, I had sat through a meeting with Define Learning. We went through a demo as specialists. So we took those back to our schools. And Miss Bowling and I sat down and she decided with her vision of moving to her new school, because her current school's consolidating, she's opening a new one next school year, and what that will look like and how we can use this to make that happen for her school. Especially when we have staff that is constantly shifting back and forth. We have long-term substitutes who in there, teachers who are moving grade levels constantly, new students who are moving in who have different needs and learning gaps. So I'm going to pass it to Miss Bowling to kind of talk about what we did and why we did that.
Yes. So, like she said, we are going from one school, we are merging two schools into one for next school year. And with that, obviously, has a lot of questions and uncertainty. And when we started rolling that Define Learning, we didn't even know who was going to be in our building for next school year. So next school year was a lot of, I just don't know why do you want us to do this? And we had to make a process of how to get us there. So Miss Gandee, I will give her full credit, is a whiz at all things technology, and she has really helped us with Schoology and making that accessible to all of our teachers to do professional development on their own time, or when we make up our PLC calendar. So our PLC calendars are designed strategically with in-person and then a time in your rooms that you can learn on your own pace in the morning, and then there is a built-in during the day session. So Miss Gandee took all the resource defined and put it in a Schoology and made it sustainable to where we could say, okay, here, please look at these items, and this is what I want you to do. And we had an in-person session with the other school of what it looks like. And, with different presenters, you don't know what you're getting. So Ansett had one session of going through the courses, taking the videos. I myself went through the courses, asked the questions, did the little chats that Miss Gandee required. And then the other school was like, oh, I didn't know that. Define Learning can do this for me. We're like, yeah. And then Gandee had to open the Schoology course for the other school that we're merging with to understand. And so we are very much had a layer process to this, but Miss Gandee developed the pacing that we can make it sustainable, because we want it to be where it's not one more thing. It is a tool that we can use to build on standards and to get access to our curriculum. But we did have to train them effectively, and then we'll continue the rollout. And time is an essence. We don't have extra time, and I didn't have the budgets to pay for how I would want it to be rolled out at the beginning. So looking forward, the trainings that can be, but if you don't have the budgets, you can still make it work. You just have to be strategic, and you have to be focused on what is best for our students to make this tool be accessible.
All right, that was perfect. And actually, I'm really glad you brought up that other example too, because as we had said, sometimes trainings can be rolled out and implementation is expected to happen, but it doesn't always. So we really wanted our teachers to finally take on PBL and it not be something that they're not confident in, or something that they're thinking, this is so much, I don't know how to do it all. I don't know how to plan it. I don't know how to facilitate it. We're shifting that mindset on how instruction actually happens. Instead of teacher-centered, we want it student-centered. So if I don't understand something, I'm not going to be confident in it, and I'm not going to really put my full foot forward. So that other school, now that they have a little bit more understanding, we are starting to see a little bit more risk being taken over there. So her teachers are starting, and my other school, they have really started to take on that risk piece. So in order to build the Schoology course that Miss Bowling is talking about, I went to Define to learn myself, because I didn't know anything about Define, but I knew about PBL. So I dove in and I started just going through all of the modules that they have already created in their own website, which are easy to access, easy to go through. But once again, time was of the essence. So I took the pieces that we were currently focusing on using Miss Bowling's strategic plan and the county's logic model that we use to just drive all of the instructional decisions that we make. And I put them all into very specific courses for everybody. So the first course that we went through was the introduction, just what is defined, how can I use it, why should I use it, and how can it help me provide this high quality instruction. Then the next course we went into was the first next pieces of just what high quality instruction is, which are easily found through PBL. And that is going to be talking about differentiation, scaffolding, assessments, all of these different pieces. So we broke it up so that they could actually go through all of that to know that these are not new things. These are the things that we are always talking about. This is what we've always done. And this is a beautiful way to make it happen. So then we'll go into. So here, of course, is an example of what the introductory module looked like that the teachers went through. So I had put in some links straight to Defined Learning itself on their platform so that they could read through some of it. I pulled out some of the links and articles that they had in there, and I created, if you haven't used Notebook LM, it's one of my favorite things. It creates you a little visual and a podcast almost. So if you don't want to read an entire 7-page article, you can pop it in there and it creates a beautiful visual for you. So our teachers actually really enjoyed listening to that discuss some engagement strategies versus reading another article, because if you know me, I'm an article researcher and I will give them out all day long. Not everybody's a me though. So we like to listen and learn. So we're going to give that to our teachers. And then at the bottom, to kind of measure their learning and what they got from that, I had them do a discussion on that. So a 3-way reflective discussion. So they had 3 things that they had to put into the discussion about what I've learned, how I can use this, and what my next steps are for using this. So it's not just talking about one thing, it's bringing it all together so they actually were able to model through what we were doing with them. And then moving into the other modules, they had 3 that were just specifics that weren't necessarily related PB or not PBL, but defined, but they could be found in defined. So each of these pieces, here's a tool within defined to make this learning happen. So when we're talking about assessments, here are some assessments and how you can use them. Here's what meaningful instruction looks like. Here's some voice and choice at a K3 versus a 412 grade level. So that way, we're not just talking about this is only possible for upper level students. This is for all students, K-12. Anybody can do this and everybody can do this. So if we wanted our teachers to be thinking differently, we had to kind of show them different ways of doing this. So as you kind of look through these modules, you'll see there are some videos, there's some just pictures, there's a quiz, some more discussion pieces, and there were different types of discussions. So it's a reflect and respond, a 3 lenses, 1 takeaway, critical thinking. Some of them had to play a little game. There it is, 3 truths and a lie. Something just to make them think that wasn't your basic way of going through, you read and respond of what PD typically is for us. A lot of information and then us just taking it and not doing anything with it. So this kind of caused them to not just go through the training, but then actually use the training itself. So then I have an example of what one of the discussions looked like. So in here we had, they went through the Launchpad activity on critical thinking. So that part actually came from Defined Learning itself, and they had to go in and read an article that came from that and then respond to it in what you found, why it matters, and how you might use it. So I wanted to share this one because I had a mix of different teachers in this school here. So we have some kindergarten teachers who are talking right through here. We have a special education teacher who's speaking down at the bottom left. We have a 7th and 8th grade ELA teacher in the top right, 1st grade teacher below her, a 4th grade teacher, and then an art teacher who also does a lot of PBL work with something that we do in our county called Empowerment Collaborative, and they do PBLs, and so she heavily works in that too. And then at the bottom right, we have Title I. Everybody's involved because when we're talking high quality instruction, everybody is involved, and everybody has a piece of this, and we can all be part of that team to cause learning. So then our next piece here is a screenshot of our 7th and 8th grade math teacher. I wanted to include her in a reason why you should use this, because she is a long-term substitute who has no teaching background at all. She had gone in, had no idea what she was signing up for, had just moved to the area and said, you know, I think I could do this. I'm interested in teaching. Let me substitute. And she was thrown into 7th and 8th grade math. And we all know how 7th and 8th grade math students are just wonderful little learners. So she was trying to teach reflections, translations, and rotations at the start of the school year, and she was using our adopted curriculum, Ready Math, and was not making any progress with that. She had used a mastery assessment. She was getting about 30% proficient on those, and she just could not figure out what to do. So then I had created the Schoology course. We did our first module in that our last PL day on our right before Christmas break, and we went through just what it was. And she took that upon herself to then go out, really dive into it on the Schoology course, but then define itself. She dove in deep and then was like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to try this tattoo artist project. So that's exactly what she did. She came back from winter break and she started immediately into this tattoo artist project. We were in the middle of the year testing. So after they were testing, it's really hard to try and get kids engaged, especially when you came back from winter break and now we have all these snow days. So this was her favorite thing, and it ended up being her students' favorite thing too. So they weren't just talking about reflections and translations and transformations. They were designing them, they were adjusting them, explaining them, applying them in a way that they were interested in. The amount of times I walked in there and it was just quiet or at least enjoyable talking. They were all over each other, looking at each other, sharing each other's. And then she was giving some questions back about, well, how could you make it in this way? Asking those quality questions that doesn't just end the learning, but extends it. So they kept saying, can we do this again? Can we do more like this? So it really translated her classroom into this, oh, we're going to follow a curriculum because that's what we do, because she didn't know what high quality instruction was. She's a substitute and had no idea what teaching really meant and how to make it happen. And she learned that through a tool, she can make even greater learning happen. But one of my favorite things I have in here too is that it's not just happening in middle school, it's also happening in kindergarten. So this next one is all about kindergarten and a team of teachers who have taken on what their typical spring unit looks like and are using Define to make it happen. So they found two projects on Define Learning to dive into their projects that they talk about for living and non-living things and just the life cycle of a plant, because one of the teachers is actually a K-1 split teacher, so she's embedding some first grade standards in here too. So they had read aloud, sorting activities, all kinds of discussions. They did predictions, observations, planting, reflections, the list goes on and on. They handed me a document that was about 9 pages long of all of the things that they were able to accomplish with it in the same amount of time that they taught their previous unit, where they got about half the amount of things done. So the kids were not just learning, they were practicing it. So it really strengthened the instruction. So the projects were not the magic, the instructional practices were. Because our teachers are now beginning to realize that it is more than just teaching content, it's about the discussions, the reflections, how we can differentiate, how the kids are asking those questions, the inquiry, the student voice, anything that is authentic learning. It's not separate from our typical Tier 1 instruction. That is our strong Tier 1 instruction that causes true learning. So where are we in Fayette County now? So of course, our big plan was to roll this out at our December PL day, and then we were going to have some checks in there. And then by February, we were going to be all in diving, doing projects together. Beautiful plan. And then we had our harsh winter that just halted everything again. And so we had to pivot again and kind of revamp what we intended to do. So we did make it through the modules in Schoology, and we have had some teachers taking this risk and already starting these projects. But we are still learning, we're refining and growing. So moving forward for next school year, we're going to take everything that we've learned this year and we're going to start those implementation practices next year, where teachers will be asked to try a project, bring it, talk about what went well, what didn't, and how we can move on from there. And so Define Learning is that system that I was talking about. They deserve a system and a tool that makes instruction effective and sustainable, and Defined is that piece for us. So it's really going to take us to the next level with our PBLs and what we do with causing learning in Fayette County. Thank you guys so much, and we appreciate everything that you're doing. And here is our contact if you have any questions or follow-ups for us, Marchelle Bowling or myself, Eleanor Gandee. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. And Eleanor, I know we just met each other last week, but I feel like we are kindred spirits, all of us. I just want you to know, and I was super excited, and you just hit the one of the most important parts of this is that the idea, right? The tasks provide an opportunity for projects, right? They're engaging, they're exciting, they're interesting. The students love them because they get to develop them and create them. They have connections to the real world. But at the end of the day, all the learning is in the instructional process. And if that process, right, so often projects are given to students and then they're taken away when we have a harsh winter, the time to do them at home, and I just wanted to reiterate how important what you said was that the deep learning happens through that instructional process. That was just, really, really great. And then giving the teachers the opportunity. I always use this. I get to travel around the country and do professional learning, and I'm always called the expert. And really, I'm the expert because I traveled the furthest. And so when everyone can share with their colleagues, right, it's so powerful because they get to share the students. So I just wanted to really say thank you so much. And so we will be sharing, and we're not done yet, but just to let everyone know, when we're done today, you'll be receiving a copy of the presentation with the emails. So please feel free, to reach out. But thank you both so much for your time with this. And what I'd like to do is just briefly turn it over to Nikki. Nikki's going to just kind of show a little bit for those of you on the call that haven't seen Define Learning and have been hearing all about it. We'll just show you a little bit about that, and then we'll take any questions, which I believe we have a couple. So thank you, Nikki.
Thanks so much, Dave. And before I jump in, I just have to, say I'm so impressed by the incredible work, Eleanor and Marchelle, that you've done. It's just amazing how intentional you've been with your approach towards all of this. And it wasn't simply about implementing a new tool, but modeling what strong instruction looks like every single day. And you can see that through your work. You can see the impact in the classrooms with the examples and that you shared and the students actively thinking, discussing, creating, reflecting, and really making those authentic connections to learning. And I myself am a former elementary teacher of 15 years, and I just love seeing the students understand the why behind their learning. So I love that you also said that, it helped the teachers realize that PBL isn't an extra thing to do, but it's going to help provide the teaching with purpose. And you are both just building a culture where meaningful, student-centered, real-world learning is becoming the norm in Fayette County. And I think it's just incredible to see. So thank you for sharing. I'm excited to dive into the platform with you all and just do a really high-level overview in case you haven't seen how Defined works. The focus today was primarily in the K-8 realm, but because we do have a countywide partnership and our services are K through 12, I'm going to walk you through both Define Learning and Define Careers so you can really see how these experiences scale from elementary classrooms all the way through to career exploration and college and workforce readiness. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And if you can just give me a thumbs up that you can see it okay. Perfect. Thanks so much. Okay, great. So in the Define Learning Library, this is where we have hundreds of projects aligned to your West Virginia state standards, but they are done through the lens of a career. So this is where you are seeing those projects, the tattoo artist and the horticulturist. So teachers have this academic library that they can pick from: math, science, social studies, ELA, these additional pieces with community connections, art integration, world language. But I'm going to dive into science, and I'm actually going to show you one of the examples that Eleanor and Marchelle shared with us. So when I click in science, you can see that you have all of your content K through 12th grade. So the project they were working on for horticulturists was in K2 life science. So when I click into life science, you can see then you have your unit outline here. These are those units of study in K2 life science. So now the teacher has projects to choose from that are going to actually help the students understand why they're learning about structure, function, and information processing. So let's jump into that horticulturist from seed to plant project. In Define Learning, all of the projects are ready to go, so teachers can easily assign them on as is, work through them with the students. They do not need to have any of that additional planning and prep time to really make it come to life, but they do have the ability to save and customize and put finishing touches on the projects if they so choose, depending on their level of comfort. We pair up with your LMS, so Google, Clever, ClassLink. as well to make it real easy to roster the students. But we're looking at a K2 task. So this is, as a former elementary teacher, something that's done more whole group with the students, of course. But as we go through the project, you'll see in the slideshow, there's going to be engaging videos for the students. So this is helping set the stage in the introduction video to just explain to the students what happens when a plant grows from a seed to a plant. But then we have this real world connection video. This is my favorite part. This video is what explains to the students how horticulturists actually use these skills from science in their day-to-day job to help provide the why behind what they're learning. There are check-in questions throughout the projects. These can be done synchronously, asynchronously, exit slips, whole group. And then every project follows this GRASS model. So this is from that UBD Understanding by Design method, if you're familiar, Jay McTighe and Grant Wiggins. And it provides the students with a goal, role, audience, and situation. So I'll play you a little piece so you can see how we set the stage.
Your goal is to create an education center in your greenhouse. You and your friends want to create this small center so that children can learn the importance of plants. Your role as a horticulturist, and you own your very own greenhouse. Your greenhouse sells seedlings to local farmers. Many people also visit your greenhouse to buy things for their home and yard. Your audience will be the people who visit your greenhouse. And here's your situation. You will need to carefully prepare and set up your educational area so children who visit your greenhouse can learn about plants and how they grow.
So you can see in this science project, students are learning that living things depend on their habitat to meet their basic needs. And now they're going to actually have that product creation part. So this is where we like to give some options. Teachers can choose based on specific areas that they're targeting or standards, or you can have the students have some voice and choice and pick which one they're interested in. But the products are usually anywhere from 2 to 5 in our STEAM products. So this way the students can choose, are they going to either do the plant observation? Or will they be completing the storybook where they're illustrating how a seed becomes a plant? Or they're actually planting seeds and seeing how they grow. Each of these products have those rubrics attached, and these are ready to go and specific to the products that the students are creating. And then down below is where your standards will populate as well. So this is just one project within the K2 science realm. There are hundreds, like I showed you before, in all of these content areas, along with computer science and STEM content as well, K through 12. So think of this as your academic side to tie in that real world learning into your standards and into those specific units of study. And then Defined Careers is our sister platform that works in unison with Defined Learning. And it is going to now dive deeper into those clusters and the pathways and step away from that academic alignment. It is K through 12 as well, because as we're seeing in this wonderful presentation, it's so important to have that career awareness at earlier ages. So we do have age appropriate content for K5, middle school, and high school students. So let me jump into a project just so you can see an example. This is a high school engineering project showing students what it looks like to be an industrial engineering technician. And what we love about our projects is they are PBL and they are product related. So the students get to have a day in the life of experience. They're not just learning about what it is to be an industrial engineering technician. They actually have a chance to step into that role. So I'll play a little piece so you can see that graph.
You are an industrial engineering technician, and your goal is to provide a floor plan and an analysis of machines that will allow a new Amazon fulfillment center to operate at maximum efficiency. And your role as an industrial engineering technician is to understand how the Amazon fulfillment centers operate and what different machines are used or will be used to help the new fulfillment center operate at maximum efficiency. And your audience.
So just playing you a little piece there, you can see how we set the stage and the students are getting hired by Amazon. For their product, they're either going to be doing a floor layout plan or a capabilities of machines analysis to make sure that that fulfillment center is running at maximum capacity. And what you'll see again is that you do have those two options there with rubrics attached and ready to go for the students and the educators. There are hundreds of projects throughout Defined Careers. And in addition to those projects, we take it a step further with virtual internships. So these are going to dive even deeper and allow the students to work on some of those durable skills, things that you would find in the workplace, like communication, collaboration, mock phone calls, mock interviews, and we do have virtual internships in all of the career clusters for students to explore. They are self-paced for the students and just a really great opportunity as almost a first step before an in-place work-based opportunity, or to help level the playing field if you don't have those opportunities for each of those areas that the students might be interested in. In addition to the virtual internships and the courses, there are future ready skill courses that are going to dive deeper into those pieces that are so important, like time management, networking, resolving conflict in the workplace. And then our at work platform is going to allow students to start to explore our mock job board. They can search based on specific location, or they can actually search, say they loved that Amazon project. They can start learning about different roles they would find at Amazon, and they can do some mock applications. So we have a whole resume and cover letter builder. We have the ability for the students to submit those things and get AI feedback. And then we also have some AI mock interviews. So again, these are age appropriate for students and allow the students to use the STAR
Thanks for
method
taking the time to
to
interview with us
answer
today.
around 7
First,
interview
Can you
questions.
tell me about a
Really
project
diving
or
deeper into that
experience where you successfully solved a complex problem and what approach you took to reach a solution?
And then the last piece I'll show you is the portfolio piece. So all of the students will have a virtual portfolio that does have a share link out to be able to share it with industry partners, family members, different opportunities in the community. It has a resume builder along with the ability to house all of their defined learning or defined careers projects they've completed. And then they can actually upload personal items as well. So test scores, work-based learning hours, community service work, and all of it can be in one place to be able to share out with those different opportunities. So that is very high level overview of Defined. I'm gonna put a little slide up that has a QR code, and you can go ahead and scan that if you would like to learn more about Defined Learning. And then it also has my contact information. I go by Nicole and Nikki, so either one works with my email address, but you can always reach out to me if you would like a demo or to get some demo access so that you can kind of play around in your own sandbox and dive deeper. But thank you so much for letting us share today, and I'm going to pass it back over to you, Dave, in case we have any questions.
Yes, we do. So thank you so much, Nikki. And just a couple questions. So first, and first, let's give the shout out. There was a shout out about for your seventh grade math teacher. So we just wanted to share that. And Eleanor, I see that you shared the answers in the chat. Could I ask you to maybe just give kind of a high level oral overview?
Yeah, sure. So, you kind of had asked where the best practices are. So, Define has all of the practices that are research-based and evidence-based about what creates strong instructional practices. So, we picked out the ones that our county and school were already focusing on and had already dove into, but we really hadn't seen the full impact from those PDs, trainings, discussions in PLCs yet. So we really wanted to drive home, here is another way that we can really see that. So we picked out those specifically for what our teachers needed because that's what we were utilizing. And then some of the heads up for what to be aware of. So our biggest challenge was the roadblocks we ran into with the disrupted training. So we had a great training plan, but that was disrupted. So we haven't been able to see the implementation that we expected to see because of that. But moving down the line, we are expecting to see that teachers are going to be resistant to just trying the next new thing because we add new things, adopt new curriculums all the time. So we are going to have to be the driving force that has them reflect on what tools they're utilizing to cause learning and remind them of all of the different things that we have available to them and just give them those opportunities. How about we tried this? Continue to give some support there. We will have a specialist next year that will have another PD on this just to continue the conversation that this is not something new. This is what we're already doing. It's just a way to use it in one easy to access place.
That's awesome. And one of the things that I think is really neat too is so often, and I don't know if this happened with your teachers, but everyone is always looking for, am I doing it right? Is this right? Is this right? And, I tell teachers all the time, look at your students. Are they engaging? Are they learning? Are they collaborating? And if the answer to those are yes, you're absolutely doing it right. And we want our students, right? We want them to reflect and revise. And same thing with your professional learning communities. That's why we're getting together, talking about what worked and what didn't. So, thank you so much. And as we finish up, I just really wanted to say, sitting and having the chance to listen to you both, you really are the epitome of a leadership team. Um, just the work you're doing, small steps, right? Small wins, big wins, culture change, culture shift. And, and Marchelle, as I had mentioned in an earlier conversation, in our work around the country, all the great ideas matter not at all if school leadership isn't invested and supportive of their teachers. And this is obviously the case. So I just really wanted to say, thank you both for all you're doing for students and, for all the work you're doing with your teachers. And thank you for taking the time today. And if anyone happens to be near the school, are they able to stop in for a quick field day lunch?
It's pepperoni rolls.
Oh, all
I'll
right.
be hustling out to help serve and
All right.
pass out
Well,
more water and give more breaks to parents.
all right. Well, with that said, we don't want to hold up anybody, or especially you, but please know you'll all be receiving a copy of the presentation for registering. It'll also be available on our YouTube channel. You'll be getting some information about that. And I just want to thank all of you for attending, listening, sharing, and for Eleanor and Marchelle, thank you so much. I hope we get to work together again. And Nikki, thank you. And I wish you all a wonderful Monday. So thank you very much. Have a great day.